its radiant purity, the lotus has been a symbol of spirituality and peace for centuries in India. Today, in New Delhi, this symbol has found a new expression in a house of worship built by the Baha'i community. For Baha'is, the oneness of mankind is a fundamental principle. To Baha'is, the temple is an expression of their aspiration to unity. In the structure, a sense of harmony has been achieved through a subtle blending of traditional and modern elements. Baha'is believe that the peace and tranquility of our modern world and the well-being of its peoples depends upon the establishment of unity. For Baha'is, the path of unity is the way to peace for all mankind. In India, some 760 million people make their homes, people of many different religious and ethnic backgrounds, striving to communicate in many different languages. How do Baha'is give practical expression to unity in the pluralistic society that is modern India? Here, people work and play and worship in such diverse ways as to make India a microcosm of society on our planet. Traditional ways offer security, but they can also inhibit change. The demands of the present thrust against the constraints of the past. How are Baha'is contributing to the solution of this dilemma? There are over 1 million Baha'is in India today. Like the majority of their fellow Indians, they live in villages where life goes on much as it has for centuries. When tradition is strong, the process of adapting to changing pressures can be difficult. The presence of Baha'is, with their commitment to building a unified community, is affecting the development of Indian society as a whole. An ancient fort overlooks Chinnakavajra, a village with a population of 1,000. It's typical of 1 million villages throughout India. About 5 years ago, a Baha'i community began to develop. It is offering a new way for people to work together to solve their social problems. The affairs of the Baha'is are directed by an elected body called the Local Spiritual Assembly. Mrs. Hanamaka is a member of the assembly. She is 55. Her family are farmers. They have been for generations. She has 6 grown children. Now her eldest son and his family live with her, as is the custom. Mrs. Hanamaka was born a Hindu. 5 years ago, she and her family became Baha'is. Mr. Mayana is also a farmer and a neighbor. He is the secretary of the local spiritual assembly. In the assembly, decisions are made by a process of consultation. For Baha'is, consultation in a spirit of unity is the way to resolve the conflicting demands of change and tradition. Mrs. Hanamaka's days begin as they always have done, preparing meals and attending to the needs of her family. But her outlook on life has changed.
In the beginning, it was as if we didn't know anything. But after we joined the Baha'i faith, it was as if we had been blind and had been given new eyes. It was as if we had new knowledge. All my family was able to live happily.
In the Baha'i faith, practical and spiritual aspects of life are blended. Work, performed in the spirit of service, is worship. Daily prayer and the reading of Baha'i scripture are essential aspects of the way of life. Councillor Nagaratnam encourages the growth of Baha'i communities.
First of all, the simple believer in the village, he accepts the faith. He doesn't accept the faith just for himself. He accepts the faith in a way that he believes that he can play a role in bringing about the change for the better world order. So he doesn't think himself to be an insignificant person in the village. I'm a young man, or I'm a small girl or something, I'm a housewife. He doesn't think that way, he or she. The thought is automatically that I am playing a role in bringing about a major change for the whole world.
At first, there were very few Baha'is here. Now, many have joined us, even educated young people. We are all working to improve the village programs. There was no clinic, so we started one. There was no school because the building had fallen down. We fixed it up and made a proper school. When young children have to go away from the village to school, there's always the risk of road accidents and so on. So with government assistance, our village school now has classes up to grade 4.
The local spiritual assembly worked with their neighbors to get the government funding necessary to build and operate the school. Baha'is believe in the universal right to education. In a society historically divided by caste and religious belief, Baha'is bring an attitude of tolerance and equality into all aspects of community life.
Since we became Baha'is, we don't observe the caste system in the village. We've learned that everyone was created equally by God. We don't acknowledge any differences at all. Recently, a girl from a lower caste fell into a well and died. Some of our Baha'i people lifted her out. We couldn't have done this if we observed caste differences.
The caste system still exists, but for us it doesn't. I get my hair combed by a lower caste woman. Many of the people who work with us are Harijans, but we all sit and eat together.
Baha'is in the village discuss community projects.
If everyone comes for 4 more days, it could do a lot of good.
Giving money isn't necessarily the only way to help. For instance, I'd have to give you wages if you came and worked. But on the other hand, if you volunteer, the help you give will be of value and will be appreciated. It will do lots of good. I hope you'll give your full cooperation so that when you are approached to help, you will be cooperative.
The teachings of the Baha'i faith have awakened a new spirit of cooperation in villagers like Mr. Mayana, Mrs. Hanamaka, and their neighbors. Now they are working together to help shape their society.
In the past, from all that I've known of villages, the changes have been very, very little. The change that has been planned or thought about had always come from the top. But in the case of the Baha'i faith, the change has to affect every fabric of society, and it has to be real. The local spiritual assemblies, as we know, are there in many places. They are in the stage of infancy, but through the process of consultation, they're maturing. And these maturing assemblies are slowly beginning to be looked upon by the rest of the village as people to whom they can turn to. They know the local spiritual assembly members are people are different. For example, these Baha'is in the past, I mean, when they were not in the faith, they were different people. Once they accept the faith, slowly they begin to see the change.
Social change begins in invisible ways, with changes in people's attitudes. In the villages, women have always been given a great deal of responsibility for the work to be done, but no share in decision-making. Traditional conceptions of the role of women in Indian society have kept them, for the most part, powerless. Now, in Chinnakavajra, this too is beginning to change. The local spiritual assembly has been discussing the formation of a Baha'i women's group. This will give women a forum in which to express their ideas on issues that concern them.
We have been holding Baha'i study classes for our women and children every Sunday. It is my hope that all of you will continue to participate in this successful program. The next item is the establishment of a women's group. It is proposed to establish a women's group for the community. What do you ladies have to say about this proposal?
Certainly.
What do you want to do?
No problem. We'll do it.
Lakshma, your consent?
When the 9 members feel they have achieved unanimity, they take a vote.
What is happening now, it's a very wonderful thing that we can see. Whatever he felt, say a young man, he felt that he has to bring about some change in society. There was no way by which he could do it alone. And in the olden time, people talked about change. They also destroyed what they believed in, together, the bad thing together with the good thing. Now in the Baha'i faith, he can retain whatever has been good in whatever he has been believing or following in the past. At the same time, he can take in whatever is necessary for this age, and they can be combined, and he can play a role in this combination, and society can definitely change.
About 150 miles from Chinnakavajra, there are well-established Baha'i communities in the city of Vellore and in the adjoining town of Shanbakhtan. In larger centers, people work at light industry and small businesses. Young and old help to provide a basic living for the family. The larger the town, the greater the diversity of religions and peoples living together. The Baha'i community welcomes this diversity. The Baha'i faith teaches respect for the founders of the world's major religions. The belief that all the messengers of God reveal one reality. Unity in diversity is a fundamental Baha'i principle. The local spiritual assembly of Shimbakum gives it practical expression by mediating disputes for the townspeople. It has opened tutorial classes for the disadvantaged children of the town. Mr. Ayappan is the secretary of the local spiritual assembly.
About 10,000 people live in this town. Of these, about 500 are Baha'i. Under the socio-economic plan of the local spiritual assembly, we clean the streets and teach poor children in the evenings. We also teach people how to get government assistance for community projects and make arrangements to meet government officers.
The assembly has established adult education classes for women. Baha'is believe that it is crucial for women to learn the skills that they need to participate fully in society.
Up to now, women have been people who are just carry out what the men tell them to do. They never had any part in the decision-making process. After becoming Baha'is, they really play their role in the consultative process. I still remember in some places I used to go those days, in the early days when I used to come here, they would only listen from behind the door. Supposing I'm talking to you or to somebody, and they'll be sitting, there will be women listening, but you don't see them. They're invisible, they're behind the doors. Now they come and they sit. Now this makes it impossible for them to stay out, and they can't be discussing from behind the doors. And once they take part in this process, what I have found personally is that they become so active, and they become so brave, and the Baha'i activity itself gains from their newly gained spirit.
In the heart of the Lotus, the Baha'is of India have found a new faith with a vision of oneness at its heart, the oneness of God, the oneness of religion, the oneness of humankind. They have discovered that it is possible to create a new society by following the path of unity. Because we are social beings, our greatest challenge comes simply in learning to live together as families, as communities, as nations, sharing one planet. The Baha'i House of Worship in New Delhi is a dramatic testimony to the power of the spirit of unity. Financial support for the building came from Baha'is around the world. The structure itself was raised with the help of many hands. The architect, Farabors Saba.
The most important thing behind that design is the relation of the people. There was a spirited side. Laborers and contractor people and consultants, all, they felt that they are a part of this team. Really, one can say easily, its entire project is a handicraft because of all the items which have been done with the help of people that they are really craftsmen. 400 carpenters at a time making 40,000 square meters of formwork, something like this. That feeling was developed at site that everybody has something to contribute, and that was the spirit of teamwork that could do this job in India.
It took 10 years to complete the building. The demands of the structure gave rise to a unique synthesis of modern technological methods and ancient skills. The Baha'i House of Worship in New Delhi was dedicated on December 24th, 1986, and officially opened. Thousands of Baha'is and their guests came from all over India and around the world to attend the ceremony. Some had never traveled so far from their villages before. Madame Ruhia Rabbani, representative of the governing body of the Baha'i community, gave the opening address.
On behalf of the supreme body of the Baha'i faith, the Universal House of Justice, I have the great honor of dedicating this mother temple of the Indian subcontinent to public worship. Now this glorious marble lotus, this exquisite symbol of purity, beauty, perfection, and mercy, enfolds us, bidding us unite in peace, proclaiming to all men the underlying verities of the Baha'i faith, the unity of God, the unity of his prophets, the unity of mankind.
If at any time, anywhere, people think that change has to be revolutionary in nature, that cannot be found in the faith. We have to have patience, allowing the organic growth to take its course. This process is taking place, and everyone plays a role, small or big, less or more. In playing this role, he or she benefits, and like the plant that grows into a tree, the faith grows on like the tree, and it will bear fruit.
In communities throughout India and around the world, Baha'is are working together to lay a foundation of unity. They believe the establishment of a peaceful society on our planet depends upon it. The inspiration for their worldwide undertaking is a teaching of Baha'u'llah, the founder of their faith. Regard not one another as strangers. The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens.